This is all 20 mainline Mario games. And what do you do to beat these? Making your way through all of the levels and taking down Bowser by killing all of the enemies and bosses that stand in your way. But today, that killing part is gone. A new law made by Princess Peach says that if we kill anything for any reason at any time, we get thrown in jail and move on to the next game. How far can we go with this? Is it possible to beat any of these games now? Well, we're gonna answer all of those questions, so let's get this thing started. Super Mario Bros., the game that introduced Mario to stomping on Goombas and Koopas, but now we're trying to avoid jail time, so we must completely avoid them. Most of these enemies are easy enough to stay away from, but the main concern here are the boss fights. In this case, defeating Bowser at the end of each castle. Thankfully, we can skip 7 of them by taking the warp pipes to go straight to the final world. There's quite a lot more things to avoid killing here, especially the Hammer Bros, which can be tricky to avoid completely. But after making it to the final level and Bowser himself, there's no way out besides hitting the axe, which sends him right into the lava. So just before the finish line, this one is a fail. The Lost Levels, of course, works in a very similar way as the original. There are more Bowser battles, but there are also more warp pipes to take. However, they are not as direct, and we actually have to complete World 4. But in 4-3, there is a huge jump which requires a bounce off this Koopa. That causes him to fall down this pit. So, did I kill him? That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure. It was an indirect result of something I did, but at the same time, had I not been there, he would have just kept flying. It's something to think about, but either way, it doesn't really matter, because there's a required boss fight right after this. All of the enemies in Super Mario Bros. 2 are much safer since jumping on everything really does no damage. It would only become a problem if you pick something up. Bad news though, we're getting thrown in jail pretty quickly on this one because Birdo is required to take down to beat the first level. Thankfully, Super Mario Bros. 3 doesn't have a boss in the first level. However, the castles do make a return, and of course, we're gonna want to avoid taking out those Koopalings. To help with that, there are some warp whistles. By the way, I'm not killing this Koopa, he's just going into his shell, it's fine. We can grab 2 of these items and use them both to go straight to the last world. This seems helpful, but we go right into an airship, and eventually, you're gonna get to a point where you gotta kill some random enemy to move on. Super Mario Land might be a smaller and shorter game, but there's still a fair bit of stuff to avoid. This is where it becomes very difficult to just jump around every enemy. There are so many of them, and they are set up in the weirdest ways. With this part, it looks almost impossible to get around everything, but there just so happens to be a checkpoint in this spot. So if I die and respawn there, the enemies in this small area disappear. This works. The rule is I can't kill anyone, but others can kill me if it's necessary. Ultimately, though, all this platforming around everything means nothing when I'm just gonna have to push the button to take out the boss. I love me some Super Mario World, and similar to the other games, it is possible to essentially warp right to the end of it through the Star World. However, in this case, it's only accessible after completing World 1, and what awaits at the end of this required castle? A fight where we shove Iggy right off the platform into the lava. Yeah, I'm not making an excuse for that. In Super Mario Land 2, we can very easily clear this first level without needing to kill anything. Then it's on to the 6 zones for the golden coins. All of these are pretty simple to clear in terms of avoiding enemies, but in order to officially clear one and get the golden coin, you must defeat a boss. So once again, there's just no way around this. Hopefully we get a bit more freedom transitioning to 3D now. The first star in Bob-omb Battlefield sees us defeating King Bob-omb, but now we can skip that. I think I can get the star behind the cage since I didn't kill the Chain Chomp. He just breaks through it and then jumps away. And there should be easily enough stars around the first level to obtain 8 and open the first star door. But of course, at the end of this is our first Bowser battle. I know that he comes back later in the game, but all I'm gonna say is we have to throw him into a spiky bomb and then he explodes. I think we have to qualify that as a death. We're probably not getting very far in Super Mario Sunshine because there's the icky paint-like goop. Spraying it with water causes this to happen, which I guess is like a plant from the goop. I mean, plants are living things, so I would probably say defeating this counts as killing. And given the first shine from this is required, that's not gonna work. New Super Mario Bros. Appears to follow in the footsteps of its original game. After clearing a few levels at the start, it's possible to take the secret exit in the castle and cannon to World 5. A few more secret exits and a skipped fortress later, there's another cannon that goes all the way to World 8. So all of that gets us pretty far, but I think we know what is coming next with all of these required castles. Although, in this Bowser Jr. fight, it looks like we don't actually kill him since he just gets up and jumps to the final castle. But in said castle, there's no escaping the inevitable defeat of him and the big man himself. Another fail seconds from the finish. When first thinking about Super Mario Galaxy, I imagine getting to at least the observatory, but with all this stuff going on with the first star, it ain't happening. Because eventually we get to this planet, where the only way to break out a Luma is to kill the Goomba right below for the key. Come on, we can't just peacefully take it back. There's somewhat of a similar situation in the second New Soup game. Very early on here, there's a secret exit. This allows us to skip all of the fortresses and take the cannon to World 5. However, once we arrive, there's something on the map that is a bit concerning. We can beat the first level in this world, but just after, we have to cross over this path, and it does not seem as though we can get around the walking piranha plant. However, I was thinking that we don't really kill the plants here if we just pick up all the toad balls. They just disappear once that's done. But then, this animation on the overworld confirmed, yeah, I can't let that slide. The warps to different worlds go away yet again in the Galaxy sequel. Now there is absolutely nothing to kill in the intro, but right after is the first star, which is required to finish. With no way of bypassing it, that means there's no way of getting around Petey Piranha at the very end of this, because there's just no way we can start any of these without a boss battle. Thankfully, Super Mario 3D Land does not start with that, but come on, we all know we're gonna get there at some point. There is a warp in the first world here, but that's just gonna take us to World 2, which must be finished. And can't finish it without conquering a Boom Boom Room. For New Super Mario Bros. 2, I really didn't even know what to think of this one. Again, by finding a secret exit in the first tower, it's possible to enter a cannon stage, and now we're in a new world. This can be repeated, and you can keep taking cannons all the way to the last world, but things run out here, because look, it's the return of Reznor. I can't do anything besides hit these blocks. And for the final New Super Mario Bros. Game, we can try to do the same thing by taking the secret exit in level 2, since it does lead to a pretty massive shortcut across the map. But we get held up a little sooner here in the jungle. The big enemies are of course much harder to jump over and avoid all the way through, but that's still not what stops us. It's the fortress. At the end of this thing is another Boom Boom Room. What's up with this guy? Taking him down is just something that needs to be done. The issue with Super Mario 3D World is that there's a ton of new enemies and bosses here, so the game kind of goes crazy with them. We can skip all of that in World 1 thanks to this convenient pipe that leads all the way to the desert, but with no warp to save us here, we're gonna run into a blockade with a giant Galoombas. And yeah, can you guess the only way out of here? Despite how much freedom there is in Super Mario Odyssey, collecting moons in any order you want and being able to skip boss fights throughout the story of Kingdoms, that can't change the beginning with the tutorial section. Of course, they just have to throw in a boss fight with Topper immediately. The only way to move on to Cascade is to watch that bunny do this. Alright everyone, strap in. This is gonna be good. So let's break this down. We have Fury Bowser, and we have Cat Shines to fix the lighthouses. Now, when one of these is lit up, Bowser runs away by jumping back into the water. This opens up the next part of the map, and we can set Bowser Jr. to no help, just to make sure he doesn't kill something himself. And then we can grab 5 total shines. This will unlock the Giga Bell, and we can fight the giant Bowser. Now, when he's defeated, it doesn't look like he dies, he just gets thrown around and sinks back into the water, only to come back up again a few minutes later. So if no one is killed here, and this is the only boss fight in the game, what does that mean? Well, we still have to be careful to not kill any enemies along the way, and there are certain shines that are just inaccessible because something has to be killed to get it, like all of the Colosseum boss fights and the Shadow Luigi clones. That one opens up some complications towards the end because it completely restricts 2 of the islands, but it just so happens that by planning out everything perfectly and breaking almost all of the Fury blocks, there are exactly 50 cat shines to be grabbed around Lake Lapcat. Now we can unlock the final fight, and does Bowser die here? Nope, he just takes his giant form for the grand finale, and when Plessy finishes him off, he flies away, but just after we see nothing bad happens to him. So does that mean? Yep, it is possible to beat a Mario game without killing anything. We don't have to go to jail on this one. Finally, onto the most recent game in Wonder. And can we get anything as amazing as the last one? Well, here's the thing. The first few levels are not that bad at all because enemies can still just be jumped over, and there's no castle or boss fight going into the next area. But once we get up here, we do have to use the 3 Wonder Seeds we got to open up the next level. And how does that happen? One of Bowser's Piranha Creepers covering the stage must be killed. Didn't think this would be how it ends, but there you go. So a lot of games were played, but in the end, we could only follow the law on one of them. Bowser's Fury is the champion of this challenge. That was super fun, and I hope all of you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone.